Hey Curt, how you doing?
It's a great day in the neighborhood.
I hear that. Man, Mr. Rogers, right? What a wonderful part of my childhood.
When you have grandbabies, you hear all kind of stuff you hadn't heard in a while. So,
Oh, really? So your grandkids, do they watch Mr. Rogers, or do they watch that fake Mr. Rogers?
no, they don't watch Mr. Rogers, but you're recalling things. There's all kind of new stuff they watch, mostly Disney and some I think it's something called Holy Cow or something. It's a Bible-based YouTube channel where they're learning Bible stuff. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
I wish I started my boys on this earlier. There's this really cool group out there called the Wild Brothers. Have you ever heard of these guys?
I have not.
So, real quick, we're just like on this train, but the Wild Brothers, they grew up in Indonesia. They were missionary kids, and there wasn't much to do. And so they decided that they would start getting a video camera and kind of videotape their adventures as being a missionary kid in Indonesia. And long story short, they put out the wildlife or the way of the wild. I can't remember exactly what
it's on YouTube.
So they're on YouTube now, and they're all older. So they did this when they were like in their like tweens and teens.
So they did it pre-YouTube.
No. They're actually younger than me.
Okay.
Okay. But they have this whole homeschool curriculum, which is super cool. And now they are now doing these basically adventures throughout the United States to think about creation and God and getting back out into the wild and having adventure in your life and putting Jesus at the center. It's amazing. Right. Such a cool group of people. But like, I wish that I had turned it on to the boys a little bit earlier, because some of the younger stuff is maybe around that 7 to 10 age, which are my boys. But I think because they've gotten into video games, they're like, oh no, I don't want to watch that right now. But
well, that kind of goes back to something. It's another topic for another day. But you have to intentionally put the right fuel in your body, your mind, your physical body, or the world's going to put something in there. There's a vacuum there, a void. It's got to get filled up every day. And I don't think we think about it enough. We think about it in hindsight when we see the damage that the bad fuel, the bad stuff we pour in, the consequences. And man, that quiet start, that quiet time that was so much a part of my life, that was the principle that I had to learn was either you fill it up or somebody else, the world's going to fill it up for you.
Yeah. And you talk about the quiet start all the time. And I grew up in I would say like a more legalistic kind of view of a quiet time, right? It was very much like, how do I evaluate my relationship with God, which, is a little unfortunate because I think that there's your relationship with God is complex, it's complicated and all that. And so, but it, when you and I started talking again about this, it really did like help me like reimagine what a quiet start actually looks like in the morning, and those morning rhythms. But I know like you also have rhythms in a big message that you have, right? Is learn to manage your month, right? And so you have rhythms to how you think about not just your day, not just your year, because I know you're a goal planner, you're a goal setter, your strategy and all that sort of thing, but also about how we think about our months. And so you do these coaching calls, starting at the beginning of the month, called Start Well call, ending the month, a Finish Strong call, and also special training usually in the middle of the month on a particular topic that you're just really passionate about right now. And so you have all these rhythms, these things that like are just these patterns, which I think is a huge part of the entrepreneurial journey. But I've heard you mention a couple times these 3 questions that help frame for you how to really get insight on how things are going. And that's really what I want to focus our conversation today about. So what are those 3?
We'll have to go back. Can we, you and I commit? Let's go back and do an episode on a quiet time. And
we can make that happen.
I think that'd be a fun thing. We need to do that. Yeah.
So tell me, what are the 3 questions?
Well, the 3 questions are, you can word them a little bit differently. These are not exactly how you have to word them, but what's going well or what went well. So it's a look back at the past and the current. If it's an annual thing if goal setting for the year, you're going to look back over the whole year. If it's the next month, you're going to look back over the previous month. But what went well during that time period? What's happening that you're excited about, that you celebrate, that you want to make sure you keep doing? So that's question number one. And then we also have to ask a question that probes and brings out the bad, the what's going wrong. So I guess the next question would be, what's going wrong, or what didn't go so well? What went wrong? And that's letting you look back. And it could be, you could categorize this in a few different ways. It could be, what obstacles were you not able to overcome? What commitments did you make you didn't follow through on? What are some things that you got bad results from that you need to stop doing, And then the third question, we can dive into them a little deeper as we go, but the third question is, based on question number one, what's going well? Based on question number two, what went wrong? What's not going so well? What changes do I need to make so that this month can be better, so that this next season can be better? So those are the three questions, and they're so important, Trey. I mean, I got my master's in Christian counseling, and I've never been a paid Christian counselor, but what that made me do is you need to be a good listener. And in order to be a good listener, a lot of times you have to ask the right questions so that you can listen to the right things, And so asking those three questions allows you to sit back and be a good listener and really help somebody and help yourself too.
Yeah, that's good. And really the truth is that these are questions that honestly are applicable not just into certainly business, but like you mentioned, in our own lives, in our marriages, and with our kids. I know this podcast is really about like trying to think about just life in general. And so I'd be curious, like, let's walk through like, what went well. And right now we're recording this in September. But just thinking about the past 30 days, like, I'm curious, like, when you ask the question, what went well, what are you thinking about as a, whether it be a Juice Plus owner or as a father and a husband? How would you not only like walk us through what you're thinking about, but also like, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, so but before I answer it, I'm going to answer your question. I want to congratulate you, because you could use these three questions on your fitness and your health journey. What's going wrong? What's going
Sure.
good? What do I need to change? And I mean, you're looking good, dude. You made a commitment and you made some changes, and those three questions would be very appropriate for you to ask right now, and you'd have good answers, because you did.
There is no doubt.
So congrats on that. But I think there are a couple of things. Sometimes to answer those questions, you need a little bit of data. And whether it's just data you gather because you've had the experience, there's no computer or anything spitting out information to you. So you gather that data that you've seen with your own eyes, heard with your own ears, that you've experienced, maybe with others too. And then in our business, or in most businesses, there's some form of data that a spreadsheet, a report, sales figures, there's some stats that you can use too. So I encourage people to gather whatever data they have on the previous month's transactions. And then there are things that happen, let's just say you're trying to be better at using social media and you're posting or you're going live or you're doing some things like that. That doesn't show up on data or reports. You're going to have to tell me that when I ask that question, based on what you experienced. So when you ask that question, you're looking back, and you're also trying to get a snapshot of where you are currently. So you're trying to do those two things. And so when I say what went well, one of the things I'll say, if they're slow to respond, is I'll say, what do we need to celebrate last month? What were you excited about that happened last month? So that's another way of asking them, because people love to celebrate, So let's celebrate the good things that are going right. And so you do it from data, you do it from experience, but that's also, Trey, why you really need to do it kind of frequently, because what you have to recall from experience, if there's not hard data, if you let it go too long, you forget and you can't remember the experience.
Yeah. The other thing about about celebrating and thinking about like what went well in my mind is we want to, and I think it's also equally with what went wrong too, is like we want to attach it to like these big things, these big like rocks that are kind of boulders are in their way, or huge celebrations. But I've learned that there is always extraordinary in the ordinary. And so sometimes the smallest things can be the things that either move us ahead because we identify it is something that needs to be removed or wrong, or it's these smallest wins actually end up becoming some of the biggest rewards for us as we're moving forward. Like my health journey, right? Like I've had the ability to lose 17 pounds over 2 months because I've decided to not drink alcohol. And on top of that, for the next 2 months, like I have 3 kids. All right. So sometimes I'm going to have a libation here and there, but the truth is I've also like gone kind of vegetarian and all that. But the biggest thing that's unlocked a lot of this is daily walks. A simple walk. It clears my head. It also, I notice that when I walk more, I have a different level of metric. It's not just about weight, but it's also about how I feel and all of that. So anyways, I think that what you're talking about is really true. Now, what for you, like right now, like what's something that's going really well in your business right now?
One of the things that I think is going really well is there is a renewed energy in our world, in our country, that, I mean, this is you're going to feel like I'm crazy still talking about the COVID and the pandemic, but it really has been amazing to me how long it took for people to try and get back to some place of normalcy. So I see 2 things. I see people realizing that the isolation they experienced was not a good thing, and they're climbing out of that hole. But I see this renewed vigor and energy to take control of their future, whether it's like take control of your health. You can't just depend on our medical system, which is, it's wonderful we have what we have, but it's kind of a sick care system. It doesn't do a whole lot to preventative and to get you on your right journey. So you need to take control of your health. And then also the second thing is that your financial situation. Who would have known that today you need to make, an extra $900 a month more, not to be ahead, but to just keep up because of inflation or whatever the exact number is. It may be different with food, gas, and energy. But I have seen people saying, oh, you know what? I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of living in the past and just blaming the pandemic on everything. I'm ready to make a difference. I'm ready to step up. So one of the things I'm the most excited about is I see people that I felt like they were living a dimmed, foggy, recluse almost life. They were like firecrackers. They're waking up. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's me that woke them up, but I mean, I think it was just time, Trey. And it's really exciting to see the new wave of leaders and a new generation of leaders emerging out of this, call it a crisis, call it a slump, whatever you want to call it. But we certainly have been in one.
Gotcha. So tell me more about the second question then. What went wrong? I think that some of this is around honesty, but I also think it is something really important about data, right? Because I think that for a lot of entrepreneurs that probably are either in the Juice Plus company or other companies, particularly those that, may not have like a full on like team to help them do the work and all of that.
Yeah.
The truth is data is oftentimes one of the things that we lack to in a sense, not because it's not there, because we don't aggregate it. We're not intentional about getting it.
Yeah.
I think about.
I mean, people talk about information overload all the time, but if you use the information, it doesn't feel like overload. It's just when it's coming at you, you don't know how to sift through it and use it. So you're right. I mean, the data, for the most part, in our world today, it's a data-rich world. So you can get the data if you want it, and then you've got to apply it. But with that question that you're talking about, really is holding you accountable to uncover that data and use it. Because I know it's there. I know that if you're a partner with the Juice Plus company building a business, I know that there's data there that gives me a snapshot of where you are in your last month. I even get people, Trey, I get them to take a blank piece of paper. In addition to recalling your experiences, gathering the data like you're talking about, sometimes they don't want to get the data because they underperformed and they don't want to look at it.
Sure.
Honestly. But one of the things, I make them just dream and clear their mind for a minute. I'll say, okay, take a blank white piece of paper. And if I'm going to do a coaching call with you and we're going to go over these 3 questions, this is another piece of data that I need. I need a visual. I want you to draw your team. I want you to put yourself at the top, and I want you to draw a picture, whether it looks like a family tree or branches on a tree or an org chart or whatever you want it to look like. I want a circle and a name of all the key people that are on your team that you're working with, because I want you to have that visual. That's a different picture than a spreadsheet full of data. They're related because the numbers on that spreadsheet are allocated towards a head or a circle on that chart. But when you can visualize people and not just numbers, oh my gosh, it makes a huge difference, because I know so many people that are masters of the spreadsheet, but they have no relationship skills. And you got to have both. So when I can get them to draw the picture and bring that data together in one place and we can look at it, man, it just comes alive.
So then, all right, so let's say in that scenario you have those 2 things. What are you looking for when you ask the question, what went wrong?
But you're asking that question both. You have that data for both questions. But when you're looking at what went wrong, what I want them to see is, okay, what were you planning on doing last month that didn't get accomplished? That's a good thing. Where we're celebrating with the first question, we're trying to do damage control so it doesn't happen again with the second question. So I'm trying to unearth a couple things. What went wrong, whether it was procrastination that they'll admit, whether it was neglect, whether it was a life crisis. Like we've had some family health crisis come up, and, granddaughter and my daughter are living with us. I mean, it's just, there's a lot that's been going on in our household that they're not excuses. They're real things you're dealing with. So some of what went wrong, it's not a bad thing, and it's not like a blame thing. It's like, I just want to talk through it so we can see why your data, why what happened. And so it's the good things that contributed to the data, and it's the bad things that contributed to the data that you desired not happening. So I think, it's what do you celebrate for the first question? And I think, what did you set out to do that didn't get done is a really good, what goals did you set that you didn't accomplish? Or is a good way to ask that question. And if it was you and your health journey, the questions are going to be a little different than they are a sales team or data questions, but you're still trying to figure out, how do I don't want that to happen again, So the first question, I want to keep doing this. The second question is, I don't want to do that anymore. Let's put a stop to it.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes when we ask the question what went wrong, we immediately want to go to these like goals that we had set for ourselves, like those things, which is important. You've got to have those. Beginning your month, you got to actually make a plan, and when you're reflecting on the last month, you got to make sure that you are coming back to that plan. I also think that sometimes what we forget is to also evaluate and ask the question of why did those things go wrong? And like, for example, in my business being a marketing company, a lot of times what we end up working with is people have a problem, their website, they're like, oh, we need to redo our website, or we need new messaging or whatever. And the answer is, well, why? Well, we're trying to get more leads. We want to have more sales conversions, all of that. And I'm like, well, what do you guys do every day on repeat? And can we look at those things too? Because honestly, what I have discovered more than anything is the answers to what went wrong is not necessarily the bigger objective or the bigger goal. It's actually the things that we have been repeating over and over again, that if we tune those things. So for example, in the Juice Plus business, this could be, how do you approach a prospect, right? Or how do you, we're going to talk about this in a couple of weeks, but like, how effective are your 3-way phone calls that you're having, right? Those are the types of things, those little things that you do on repeat in your business actually sometimes are the biggest needle movers if you can tune those things to be better, right?
Trey, when you're right, little things, but it's also, I would say, little but maybe subtle also. It's really good when you become a coach that really becomes effective and you really become a part of helping that person. Because we're looking at these questions from two perspectives. You can ask them about yourself, but the best way is to have someone that helps hold you accountable that's a coach that does those questions with you. And that's the process that I love. But, let's just say one of your goals was to go live on Facebook at least once a week. Maybe you were uncomfortable with that. You don't like the way yourself looks on video and you never quite get it where you're like happy. Or you don't have enough courage to like put something out into your network that you've never done before. So those are real things, but they're not black and white reasons. It's courage. It's having enough desire to overcome the courage. It's seeing the benefit versus the maybe some negatives that are in your mind. So sometimes it's not always a black and white thing. Sometimes you have to really listen hard, and someone has to be really transparent. And it's like, I was really scared to do that. I don't feel equipped to do that. And I see all these other people, and they've got great light in their office and wonderful microphones, and all I've got is my little iPhone and a chair or whatever, And so people have all kind of excuses, but you have to help them overcome that. One of the things that I'll say is like, if you don't like seeing yourself on video, then quit going to Starbucks and quit going out to eat, because it really is what you look like. And you go sit across the table from somebody at Starbucks, and you don't think about, well, what did they think about what I look like today? Or do I have on the right outfit to see them? You just get up and get dressed and you go grab a cup of coffee. And then all of a sudden you're scared to death to get on the camera on a screen. But you know what? It really is what you look like, and you're stuck with it. Just move, go for it,
Oh, that's good. That's good. So we got these first two questions. What's the third question?
Yep. The third question might be the most important because it's the most probing of the three, because I think it's forward thinking. So the third question is not continuing to look backwards. The third question is, what do I need to do different? What changes do I need to make to move forward to get different results? So we've already said, keep doing these things, stop doing these things, but that doesn't mean there's something that was left out that you weren't doing that you need to add, or something that you were doing. Maybe the things you're celebrating, if you were doing those once a week, maybe you could turn that up and do it twice a week. Maybe that's the change you need to make, is to accelerate what you're good at and maybe remove some of the things that you're weak at to really throttle it down, So that question is important. And that question really is what allows us to start well and take control of the month that's ahead of us, or the whatever time period we're talking about, year, month, week.
Yeah. So the thing about this question, though, is I think that we can always think about, this is what I should do differently, right? And this comes back to one of your other core principles of Kairos, right? Where we talk about repent and believe as two sides of a very insightful moment that could change your life. And so many times when we think about repent or changing our minds, that Greek word metanoia,
changing direction, moving towards the right
That's
direction.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem is so many times we go through the process of changing our mind, but we don't act in the faith that it's actually in a new way. And so I think what's really important there is, one, making that determination that I am going to act in a different way. So the thing A, right? But two, it comes down to accountability and vulnerability. So I have been a pastor. I was a pastor at a church for 5 years before going to education.
I was there.
You were there, yeah. And then I'm still an elder and teaching pastor at our church now. But the one thing that is true about church life is community and the desire of wanting a community. The thing is this is the secret sauce to true community. It's vulnerability and accountability. But that, when people actually receive it, sometimes they don't necessarily want that. And so it comes back to that thing that you were talking about, being able to draw out your team to know, who are you sharing these ways that you're going to act differently with? And who is it that's going to hold you accountable? Because admitting that you did things that were wrong on paper and you need to do something different is one thing. With yourself is a whole nother thing to say, hey, listen, I need to do better here. So if if someone's stuck right now and that's kind of where they're at, what is the best way for them to move forward, and specifically within your own business at Juice Plus?
There are a lot of answers to that question. I mean, because each scenario is a little bit different. But let me go with the one that I find that is the reason most people are stuck, because you can be stuck for different reasons. But let's take the one that I see and deal with the most. And that is, people get stuck because they have a target or a goal that they've tried to reach over and over again, and they don't reach it, so they feel defeated. Then doubt sets in, and they no longer think they can reach the goal they were so excited about. Not because they can't do it, just because they've gotten in their mind, they've gotten their nose bloody trying a few times, and now that goal that seems 6 months out seems they're going to need eternity to get there in their mind. So what I learned, and this was maybe a John Maxwell thing because I love John Maxwell, but in all my readings and things, this is the one thing that came back to me. I do believe this. I want to give John Maxwell credit for this. He said, in order to restore belief, and that's what someone that's stuck, I think 90% of the time they need to have their belief restored. And really, it's more belief in their self than it is belief in the fact that what you're eating is going to make you lose weight, or what exercise is going to make you lose weight. You have to believe in yourself that you can do this and you want to do this. And so someone in our business trying to hit a goal or a target that now seems like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And there was a point in time which I see clearly, I can do this, So they've lost the ability to see clearly and believe. So what I have to do is I have to take that big goal that they had, and I've got to break that down into steps. And then what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the first step so that we have something to celebrate again. It's one step towards the bigger goal. Because remember, you're going to celebrate the things that went well and keep doing them. So if I can find a baby step and help them land on that new step and achieve that goal, even though it's small, they're going to feel like it's a step in the right direction towards their bigger goal, but it's something we're going to celebrate. Then if I can get them to repeat that, accelerate that, share that principle with others so that duplication sets in, they're going to be back on track to their big goal that they doubted. And they're unstuck now. And so, again, that doesn't fit every scenario, but that's 90% of them, I think.
Yeah. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Well, Curt, thanks. I think this was really helpful. And, coming up on our next show, we're going to be talking about, so one of the things is we're kind of reframing this whole show, right? And this next one is going to be really about boot camps, right? And so I'm curious, why is it that we should be talking about boot camps? Why is it that people in the business need to be thinking about boot camps? We're even doing a whole video series about this, but give us a quick preview of what we're going to be talking about next.
I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, we used to have a beach house on Fripp Island, which was right next to Beaufort, South Carolina, which was right next to Parris Island, where the Marine basic training, their big boot camp, and you saw them in 100 degrees with backpacks, going there. And so you get your mind, well, this is basic training for the journey you're about to be on. It's going to get you ready. And that's what boot camps do. I mean, in our business, you could watch YouTube videos forever, or you could, wait for the next event and just kind of plod down the course. Or you could say, they're going to be the best speakers, a great location, a great opportunity, and I'm going to go and I'm going to get intense training so that I'm equipped for the journey. Well, that's what a boot camp is. It gets you ready quickly because it's intense. Over a weekend, there's lots of learning, there's lots of community, there's lots of food, there's lots of relationships, lots of fun. But you compact it into a weekend. But we're also going to talk about, that's from the attendee perspective, but what's so important too is for you leaders out there that are listening to Trey and I just share these principles that make life work. Because the title is Life, It's What You Make It. And that's true. It's what you make out of it. It doesn't just happen. So a boot camp, it ain't going to just happen. It's what you make out of it. And we're really going to focus in on, why are you doing this? And you answer that question. That's going to create your desired outcome. And then you back up and you create the speakers, the lineup, you get everything ready so that you get the right attendees there that are going to hear the right message so that boot camp does equip them better for the journey. So I'm super excited about it. It sounds like a basic topic, but it's it's probably one of the most important things I've done. We've had one boot camp, Trey, the Peachtree Boot Camp. We got Peachtree and Blue Ridge, but the Peachtree Boot Camp, believe it or not, we've been doing since 1989.
Wow. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot to learn here, and I'm excited for it. So yeah, we can't wait to share that next episode with you. Curt, where can people find you?
Well, you can do at Curt Beavers on just about any platform. I was early enough in the game that I tried to get my name on every platform. Just simple at Curt Beavers with a C, not a K. And our website is makealife.com, and it's got a About Us page where you can find other ways to connect also. And our videos are on YouTube. Our podcasts are on, Apple and Spotify and all that kind of stuff. So should be pretty easy to find us.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. And we'll see you guys on the next show.
Adios.